So, Benny is loosely based on a story from my dad's childhood. His older brother, Tommy, he was born with some mild birth anomalies. He had like a cleft palate. He also had like a deformed like roof of the mouth and all this stuff. And he had to go through like all these operations to get his face fixed. And it was at the time they were doing a lot of breakthroughs with like skin grafting and stuff. So it was all funded by the government. It was free operations basically. So I said, okay, we'll do it. But during that time, he looked really rough. He was like all messed up. And he was the oldest, but the fact that he was so insecure about that, anytime anybody would make fun of him for it, it would cause him to break down. And in reality, not that I'm glorifying violence, but the whole 1960s Irish American thing, it's kind of hard to avoid tales of sort of revenge. But in the real story, when they would do that, the other three McGinnis boys would be there to take turns beating the crap out of the guy that made fun of their older brother.
Good.
Including my dad would do it too, and he was he was the second youngest, so he was pow pow, you know.
Good.
But so nobody actually died in the story, nothing like that. I basically took the idea of an older brother that got made fun of for some reason and was put in a position where he seemed less secure than his own younger brothers. And somehow I just kind of spun this story in my head, and I don't know why I went to such a sad place with it, but I just kind of was writing it, and every now and then, you know, you have to tell a really sad story to awaken certain feelings in people, and, you know, so at the end of the song, you know, he's like, I'm half a century old, you know, I tell my kids to be grateful of what they got before it's gone, all this stuff. You know, it's sort of like maybe telling the story a little bit sadder makes that hit a little harder, you know?
Yeah.
And Georgie, also on the album, that's the sequel to that song.
All right.
Because in Benny, there's a brief mention. He says, was Thursday afternoon he screamed, I flew out of the classroom to find my other brother, Georgie. He was down the hall in 201.
I remember that.
And Georgie takes place years later. And Georgie can't cope with the death of Benny and doesn't know what to do with himself. So one day, out of nowhere, he just runs away from home. So, and you catch at the very end of the song, he says, Benny ain't coming back. Let us leave it at that. We got 2 lives going by. So, the sequels, and I'm about halfway through writing the third and final installment. That is the narrator of the story, who's been singing both songs, and they're sort of told from his perspective. He is finally going to sing about himself.
Oh, wow.
In Georgie at the very end, it's sort of glossed over on purpose. He says, and when I got out of jail, he didn't tell me this tale, and Georgie didn't tell me this tale until we sat down to eat. So it's supposed to kind of be like, oh wait, you're in jail? What is that?
Exactly.
So the third story is finally him, and I've started writing it, and it's in a form of a letter to Benny, who he knows is dead, but he doesn't know how else to communicate to him because he doesn't feel comfortable trying to talk out loud or anything.
Yeah.
So he writes a letter to him, to Benny, apologizing for what he did that put him in jail. And let's just say that it had to do with the kid who accidentally pushed Benny off the balcony.
Wow.
So that will be the final installment, and I'm going to release them all on one little EP in order. They're called the Three Brothers EP. That'll probably be like next year.
Wow.
Just sort of a side thing, just to tie those loose ends of those stories together.
And sorry you made Danielle cry.
I'm sorry I made you cry. It's for a good reason. You learn things, I guess.
It's a life
Thank you,
lesson.
Frankie.
Of course.